Hello, my name is Kent Lewis, president and founder of Anvil Media, measurable marketing agency based in Portland, Oregon. It's a pleasure to be a part of the NATDA educational series. Today, we're going to talk about how to maximize website traffic via the latest and greatest SEO strategies. So you can find me on the Twitter at Kent J. Lewis, and you can follow my agency, Anvil Media, as well across all social platforms. We're both pretty easy to find. I encourage you to make a connection request on LinkedIn, follow us on the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. So with that said, let's get started. Let's talk about some SEO. One caveat, before we do that, let me tell you a little background about myself to kind of frame up the discussion today. So for starters, I've been running Anvil for 20 years. I've been in the marketing world for 25, and for 24 of those, I have been running digital marketing teams, and especially SEO since '96. So it's been a long journey. Also, the last 20 years or more, I've been an adjunct professor at Portland State University, where for the last decade or more, I've been teaching a search engine marketing workshop for continuing education. And right around 2000, I started a networking group as well called PDX Mindshare. That's the orange and black logo. You can visit the website at pdxmindshare.com or the LinkedIn group, which is the largest in Oregon, where I'm from, for those looking to build your careers and your network and post jobs and events and so forth. I have been speaking at NATDA conferences for 8 or 9 years now, on and off over the years. It's a fun group. I've also been a past presenter multiple times at SEMA, VTwin, and others. So it's a pleasure to be invited back as always. If you're looking to learn more about the digital dark arts, as we call them, I co-founded a trade organization here in Oregon called SEMPDX. That's at sempdx.org. There's a bi-monthly newsletter and a blog with a bunch of great content and educational learning events. Many are free now in the virtual world post-COVID. And it's good to see they have a big annual event called Engage, formerly SearchFest. That I used to be a founding member of that event as well. There are a lot of good experts, good content from great experts from around the world at those conferences. I write regularly for Smart Brief and Portland Business Journal, and I also teach a quarterly workshop for SCORE out of the Portland office, and you can experience any of those events for, I think they're upwards of $10 at SCORE now that they're virtual. So check out score.org and for more information for the Portland office for our events and workshops. You can do them virtually from anywhere. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to touch on some market research and industry statistics around the world of search engine optimization, aka SEO for short. And I'll touch on strategic planning, which is a step too many businesses skip from my experience the last many years. We'll touch on the 3 Cs of SEO, which are the fundamentals of any good SEO program. And then touch on a few trends, a couple of case studies, and we'll talk through, time allowing, some resources before we move on. So few stats and some research for you to consider as you go through your day. The reasons for search, how it can help. It's business growth, it's a better user experience, it's very good, it's a cost containment, very efficient way to market. You can innovate quickly. There are a lot of benefits to SEO. This is just a quick cheat sheet for those of you that are newer to it. I'm sure that most of you in the trailer business have been in and around SEO, or at least familiar with it in some way, but this is a great case to make to the owners if I'm not talking to the owner right now. The pandemic did increase search volumes, particularly by Q2, post initial pandemic. When COVID hit, everybody was stuck at home, so there's a lot more search going on. It grew, and it grew at a decreasing rate after being at a negative growth rate for 5 years or 5 quarters. And then I think Q4 was a further decline rate, but we haven't got that data yet. This is relatively new research. So Google is still the primary player and is generating still a ton of search volume. And the reason is because they are 94% of the market. Google web search, as you know it, the most commonly used search is 68% of the market, almost 69. Image search is over 20% of the market, just searching images. And then you've got Google Maps, YouTube, and Google My Business taking up the rest of the Google market. And collectively, there's a little over 5% of the market share is Bing and Amazon and the social sites like Twitter and Facebook. So you can see when I first started optimizing for search, Yahoo was 50 to 60% of the market. Now it's 1.6. Shows you how times changed. Kind of sad. So let's talk about planning, knowing that Google is the 800-pound gorilla and that there are a lot of business reasons for doing it. But I always like to start with those objectives. What are you trying to do? So some of our, a vast majority of our clients are looking for generating peer awareness and branding or brand management. So something bad has happened and they require what we call online reputation management or ORM. That happens, and it can happen in the trailer business as well. Second, least likely is thought leadership. So we want to be a leader in the space. And so we want to own certain common popular terms. That's not unheard of, but it'd be more like a big techs versus a small local dealership. And then generating advertising, affiliate, or subscription revenue. If you're a publisher between a NATDA or a Trailer Dealer News or whatever, they would be on the ad or affiliate side of the revenue. But for the brands like big techs that what works primarily with dealerships, they're a B2B marketer with a little bit of consumer marketing to support it. Most of what's going on is that I'm talking to trailer dealers and select manufacturers that do want to go direct, and you are a business to consumer rather than business to business, and e-commerce is ideally where you'll end up through the digital transformation if you're not already there selling online through your website. You can still sell trailers to the website. Just call us now for an estimate or a cost, and then do the deal old school through fax machines and smoke signals. But bottom line is SEO provides the lowest cost leads, which makes them the most profitable form of digital marketing. And so that's why it's been a core to our business for 20 plus years. And a lot of trailer dealers and some manufacturers rely heavily on SEO to build the brand. So the next thing is you figure out your objective, your primary objectives, and they can be prioritized. We want to generate awareness and traffic and ultimately leads, qualified leads or sales, depending if you have e-commerce or not. So then you got to figure out your audience. So there are a lot more constituents than just the target market of the ideal end user, the farmer, the weekend DIYer, the commercial businesses that need haulers for all kinds of usage. So there are geographic, demographic factors. There are sociographic, behavioral, psychographic, what we call building an archetype or a persona for your ideal customer or customers. That's a potential customer. It's based on your existing customer, however. So your existing customers tell you a lot about the business you're in because they're the ones that are already paying you money for the benefit of the products you provide them. So you also want to look beyond just existing customers into potential customers. You want to look at if you are ever think about hiring in the next year, you have to think ahead by curating your visibility and your credibility, making sure that you are highly visible and that Glassdoor, Indeed, and others have positive reviews, so it's not preventing your recruitment efforts. You have partners, so if you're a dealer, you've got your manufacturers. If you're a manufacturer, you've got your dealers, and they're the accessories and parts and services side. So you have a bunch of partners for that most likely, and they should be addressed in how you target any of your marketing, including SEO. And then there's also the investors, press and analysts. You want to keep them happy. Not as many analysts in the trailer business, but there is definitely media, and there are investors for many of you. So keep in mind all of those constituents is important as you're doing your SEO planning to make sure that you're addressing each of their needs. So for example, most of your, if you're a dealer, most of it is your product pages and your content around your key trailer SKUs, the products you carry. Potential employees, it's a careers section or a about us page. For partners, it might be a partnership page, looking to partner, we're looking to sell new lines, or are you looking to sell our lines? And then we're looking for investment, or here's our investor relations page, probably not applicable to most of you. but worthy of thought. And then having a newsroom or a press room is helpful. Here's our latest press release or a recent coverage, which is a really key SEO strategy. So keep those in mind. Now, wrapping up on the planning side, there are other components to keep in mind. So when you're building out your budgets for SEO or any other marketing, you want to look at your customer acquisition cost. How much is it cost for you to get a new customer, and what is your average? So it's what your average deal size is. Maybe it's $800, maybe it's $2,000, whatever that is. You also got to look at how often do your customers on average reorder, because if they're reordering from you 2 or 3 times, then that average lifetime customer value, if you include service, is instead of being something like 800 to 1,000, it might be 5 to 10,000 over the time. And I'm guessing from my experience in this space that people might buy 2 or 3 trailers from a dealer if they're kind of a onesie twosie small shop. If you get a corporate deal, it's obviously going to be a lot more than that if they're buying dozens of trailers at a time. So segmenting your audiences by commercial versus residential, individuals versus businesses is important because they're going to have different LCVs, and you should build your budgets around those LCVs. You should be willing to pay, let's say, 3 to 4 times as much for a commercial client that's buying your trailers in B2B level than from a general consumer just buying a horse trailer or some other hauler. So integrating with your other programs, PR, paid search, organic social, email marketing, Amazon, if you're selling on any parts or accessories on Amazon, those are all factors to keep in mind, as is your timeline. I often ask, one of the first questions I ask prospects that are interested in working with Anvil on their digital marketing is, what's your timeline? Because that may impact budget, it may impact a lot of things. What geography are you targeting? Most of you, if you're a dealer, you have a certain geographic area, maybe 250 miles. Some are a little less in more dense populated areas. Some are a lot bigger if you're in more rural areas. And then what I also need to know as a potential vendor partner is, what internal resources do you have? Do you have a webmaster, the old term for somebody who manages your website? Do you have a content person? Do you have a product person that's updating your catalog? Do you have somebody managing social? What are the resources you have so we or other vendors know how to augment your existing resources? Do you have tools or other technology you're using? So are you on a CMS platform, one of the dealer spike type of platforms? Are you on a home built platform? Are you on WordPress? That all matters to understand what it would take to manage your marketing. And then there's the metrics. How are you going to measure success? Is it leads and inquiry forms? Is it e-commerce transactions? Is it something else? Setting those expectations and setting those goals up front is important, and then assigning budgets to that. So most commonly, a prospect will come to me with a budget and a need, but ideally, the clients come to me with a need first, and then we reverse engineer the budget. That's going to be greater chance of success, because everybody wants to double business without spending a dime, double revenue. But realistically, it takes a little money to make money. So it helps to budget based on goals first. Otherwise, you didn't give me a budget and I can give you an expected return historically. And just so you know, at Anvil, we look at a 2 to 5x return on your total ad spend or marketing spend. So that would include our time. And so if we're not breaking even, there's no time. If you spend $100 on Anvil and advertising dollars, if we're managing digital advertising, and you get $100 back, there was a break even. Arguably, with all the effort, we've lost a little money. So we look at least a 2x return. That should help cover when you consider your margins. But some of our clients are running 5 to 10x returns. So they've been with us for years, as it turns out. So how are you going to go about your SEO? So there are the 3 Cs of SEO that we'll talk about in greater detail in a second, but I want to provide a little bit of background for you. First of all, I'm going to be mentioning terms, jargon I already have, but one is called SERPs, and that is just short for the search engine result page. If I do a search for something like search engine marketing, sometimes there's an ad at the top or 2 to 3 ads. Then there might be what we call rich snippets or powered by the knowledge graph, which are people also ask, or voice search of position 0 questions. You want to be the best answer there. So you're the only answer in the speaker. Then there's the organic listings, like what is search marketing, and there's a few more. Then you might see news, you might see social feeds, you might see images or video. You can see here's an example at the bottom, there's an ad, and then related searches. And on the side, there's something called the knowledge graph, and that is a definition of the term that I just searched on search engine marketing and some additional related searches and more information. A lot of the knowledge graph, which is that little sidebar on the site on the right side, is powered by Wikipedia, but it can be powered by Google or other platforms, other data providers. So you want to get in on that conversation by owning general terms as a best answer, an organic search result, or power the knowledge graph on the right side. So those are the different elements of a SERP, and that's really important to score well with your SEO to be on 2 to 3 different places. And I didn't even include local search here. So if I'm looking for Portland trailer dealer or a dealership, Portland, Oregon, I will probably see a local listing 3-pack first, and then maybe a few of the local retailers, and then some national trailer dealer sites. And that's a whole different game we'll talk about in a second. So how do you get into the top of Google search? Well, this pie is a relatively simple look, and I'm going to try and make it even more simple by aggregating these into the 3 Cs of SEO. But by and large, your website will rank based on how old the domain is, how well it's trusted, if the content includes the keywords I'm searching for, as well as the code does as well. So the keyword has to be embedded there. The older the domain, the more faster the site, the more credible the host, the more traffic you get, the more social likes and shares, and inbound links to your site, the more likely you are to rank. So these are all kind of weighted. But for the most part, does your domain have a domain authority? Does that page have page authority, meaning that page is relevant to the trailer search in this case, because the keywords are there, among other reasons. So these are, in short, the key factors as provided by Moz, one of our top resources / software providers in the industry of search, SEO specifically. So the 3 Cs of SEO, I wrote the original article almost 20 years ago. The 3 Cs are very simple. Content. If you don't have content on your website with the keywords embedded, like trailer, gooseneck trailer, hauler, tractor, whatever the terms are, you'll never rank for terms that don't show up somewhere on your website. In the old days, you used to keyword stuff it as much as you could. You don't need to do that anymore. Google's smarter than that, but you do have to have those keywords somewhere on your site. The next step is code. So you have to, in the code itself, the keywords have to be there, plus code has to be fast, efficient, using schema markup. It has to be described. You have to use schema to say this is a question, this is the address, this is a product page. All of that's really important. Schema is more important than ever to create context, called semantic search. And then there's the credibility factor. So who is linking to you? How credible are they? Who's mentioning you? How long has your site been around? How fast is your site? So these are all on-site, off-site credibility factors, including social signals. And what that means is in the last 20 years, Google hasn't really changed its core algorithm. You have to have the right mix of content on your site with the right keywords, clean, fast code with the keywords in the right places, and then credibility factors, quality and quantity of links and other signals that say this is a credible site. And when I first started optimizing websites in '96, credibility wasn't a factor. It was just keywords on site. Code was a factor because Google and the other search engines, 14 of them originally, weren't very good at parsing certain kinds of code. That's less of an issue now. So code isn't as important as it used to be. It's more ubiquitous now. Credibility is really the hardest thing to game. It's, arguably 50% of the algorithm is how credible your site is. So code, let's call it 30%, 30 to 40% code, 10 to 20, credibility is the rest. We'd roughly broken down. If you were to look at that Moz pie, they kind of fit in that format. So the first step in any good SEO program is keyword research. Now, we all probably know this or have done this at some point in your life. You start with a Google search, and then you see the suggested terms at the bottom. You look at how relevant the terms are in the search results. You might utilize Google Ads keyword tool. There's a Google Search Suggest, Uber Suggest, which is now part of Neil Patel's network. Google Trends, which is free. Google Analytics, which is on your site and is free. Those are all going to give you some touch points, and that's just the Google ecosystem. Then there are other third-party tools that you can use, and we'll talk more about those later. But you don't have to pay money to get good insights. You can look at all your competitors' websites to see what keywords they're using on their website, what the keywords they have in their code. Look at the industry publications and organizations like NATDA. What language are they using in their website and their pamphlet at their conference, their big show? And then also don't underestimate the resources you have internally. So you might be even though if you're a 5-employee dealership in, Puxatawny, you still have somebody in charge of sales, somebody's in charge of service, somebody's doing product development in terms of carrying the lines and working with the manufacturers. They will all have ideas on what keywords and nomenclature should be used. So we typically recommend doing interviews with the team to get some of their feedback on what vernacular we should be doing additional research on. And then obviously you can look on social media and customer reviews to see what language are they using, what are they saying, what do they care about most in terms of product features and all of that. That's all really important. So we triangulate keywords based on popularity, how common they're used, based on how difficult they are to rank for, how expensive the terms are in paid search, and how many bidders or competitors there are on those terms. That all shows desirability and popularity, and that can all be triangulated by pulling original keywords, raw keyword data from these sources, and then we triangulate and prioritize those keywords. You can do this yourself. It's a lot more efficient to hire somebody who knows what they're doing to get it right, but these are all the key steps that we take. One important point to know about keywords is the concept of the long tail. So somebody like me who didn't own a trailer when I first started speaking at NATDA, and now I have I haul a pop-up trailer, basically an RV type of experience. And so I now know about hitches and brakes and all the different things that go into having a trailer that I didn't know when I first started speaking at NATDA. And so back then I wouldn't even, I think it's a trailer. Is it a trailer camper, a camper trailer? What is this thing? And then as I got to learn more about the industry from speaking, half a dozen times or more over the years at NATDA, the horse trailers are a very different ecosystem, demographic, sociographic than somebody hauling landscaper versus a car or toy hauler. So these are all different folks. And so I might, as a buyer, start at trailer. My wife's getting a horse, so I realized, it's actually a horse trailer. And then after a couple quick searches, I get down to, I need a gooseneck, and I realized that Featherlight has what I'm looking for. That's just one example. I just did a quick Google search on horse trailers, and Featherlight has decent SEO, so I'm using them. Hats off to Featherlight. Maybe they don't need our help. But the idea is that the farther you are into the specific terms, the deeper you are into sales process. So the more specific the term somebody's searching for, the more likely they are to convert because they're farther in the sales process. As a result, long tail keywords like 4 to 6 termed phrases, Featherlight, gooseneck, trailer, 2020, or used, or whatever it is, 2.5 times more likely to convert because you're right there, you know what you want, and you're looking for that answer, or that somebody to sell it to you, new or used. And so that's the reality of the tail. So it's a low volume, high conversion component. So don't just try to own trailer or horse trailer or gooseneck trailer. You want to own those tail terms too, which is a lot easier to do because there's less competition down the line. You still have to create great content, really deep content, blog posts, articles, interviews, not just those product pages, because there's like 3 or 4 data providers. They're all getting the same inventory content. You need to round out and provide better, richer content than your competitors in your market. So one element to keep in mind that's along the lines of the long tail is questions, common questions. So optimizing for what we call voice search, position 0, or 0-click search is all very important because in our house we're Google, other friends are Apple homes, Siri homes. So when you have a smart speaker and you say, hey Siri, hey Google, hey Bixby, hey Cortana, and you ask a question, you want the answer to be provided by, according to big text trailers, right? According to Featherlight, the gooseneck is better than a fifth wheel for XYZ reasons. So the way you do that is write FAQs, frequently asked questions, put them on your website, optimize them using schema markup, and structure the page in a way that if Google likes your answers better than everybody else, boom, you're done. That sounds easy, or it sounds confusing and that all sounded like foreign language. That's why we're here, right? We make this happen. This is what we do for our clients and have been for over 20 years. Ideally, our clients have the industry knowledge about gooseneck trailers, horse trailers, whatever it is, haulers, whatever it is you build or sell. And then we help you get that information in front of people at the top of Google or the top of any other search engine or social media site. That's what we do. and you can do it as well. We have a voice search white paper in ebook on our website. Yeah, I encourage you to read those to get more information at anvilmedia.com. Now, when you're optimizing for voice search, what you're going to see in our article and white papers is that the most common terms in featured snippets, which are those answers, are modifiers that I was telling my clients not to use 20 plus years ago. Best, make, can, get, number, cost, these all seem like unnecessary modifiers. But in the question, when you're asking questions, people are often asking for the best. Or price or cost or reviews. So you want to make sure you're factoring that into your FAQs, these kind of keywords or buzz terms that are very popular. And then as you're creating your ideal content on your FAQ or blog posts or product pages, is that there are different formats. So there might be paragraph words, paragraphs, lists, or tables. And these are the targets that you're going to want to create or write for. And that's what we do. We guide our clients, or we write them for the client if they give us the raw materials. And it works very, very well. We'll talk more about that in our case studies section. Then there's the common SEO elements. So what are some of the elements that you are looking to add that you need to have on your site to do well in search? First thing is the internal link structure. So your navigation needs to tell a story. You know, the product section would be your e-commerce section, right? If you're a retailer, a dealer, and you have your main product types, and then you have your brands, and then you have the different specs. You might have about us, you might have a press section, you might have a fitting, help us determine which product is best for you. But all of that needs to link to each other to give Google context as well as create a good navigational experience. It's also important to have a strong footer in your website. So name, address, phone number, key navigation, and text. You might want to add in other bonus materials like testimonials on a rotation, a social media feed, your most recent blog posts. These are all examples of what you can or should add to your landing page, to your footer in your template. So it's on every page of your site, particularly name, address, phone number. Phone number isn't important for us. We don't even use a phone pretty much, but you're going to need a phone number, especially if you're a dealer. And then there's the local search, name, address, phone number, which I just mentioned. You need that in your footer as well as your contact page. And heck, you might want to put that phone number on every page within your template, your main 800 number, top of the website, as a matter of fact. So, phone numbers are not as important for us. It's only on our contact page. But the contact page link is on every page, as is our address, in case people are back in the day when people used to visit us pre-COVID, then the address is easy to find on a quick scroll. So it's important to have that. Name, address, phone number, which is the key for local search, should be consistent across all directories that power maps and business directories and phones. You can use a tool like Moz, Whitespark, or Bright Local to pay them a small annual fee for them to make sure all the data feeds are consistent so that anybody can find you, and that's critical if you're a dealer. Still important even if you're a manufacturer, but essential if you're a dealer. So a dedicated landing page for each of your locations is important for ranking in local search. Ideally, one phone number per location for best, because your phone number is your unique identifier in local search. That's all very important. We have a whole set of local search resources on our website as well. But across your site, if you want to minimize duplicate content, so that means your location pages should be uniquely different. So nearby name, address, phone number, location information, hours, any special instructions, nearby attractions, anything that you can give Google and the visitor some context is helpful as but keep it unique. Each page should be unique. So you're ideally 100% of your site's unique, very little common content, no duplicate content. This is a simple tool we use to assess websites, and that's what you're going for, is a very unique experience. It's very hard to create unique content when everybody in your industry has a similar data feed or product feed if they're carrying the same brands. So you got to, as I mentioned earlier, differentiate. So here's an example of our resource section, which I highly recommend visiting. This is how we differentiate ourselves within the search marketing industry. So if you click on Insights on our top navigation, you get to our marketing resources. We have blog posts, articles, cheat sheets, which are high level, shorter, deep dive into particular topics, white papers, which are 10 to 12 page deep dives into topics, ebooks, which are light reading, somewhere between a white paper and a cheat sheet. And then we've got podcasts, videos, and webinars. So we have a ton of different content we've been doing for years. We've been blogging nonstop since '04, as a matter of fact. And then we have all our other capabilities and service descriptions. But our insight section is what differentiates us, and it drives a ton of traffic and awareness for our brand. That's one way you can differentiate yourself, is all your educational material about the lifestyle of the trailer lifestyle for whatever industries and verticals you're in, the brands that you associate with, the manufacturers, and then your customers telling their story. So that was the content side. Let's talk about the code side. This is the trickier side. While I said it may only be 10% of your rankings, it may be slightly more than that, depending on how slow your site is. So Google recently came up with this, promoted the concept of these core web vitals. It's your first contentful paint and that's coming up in the next slide, more detail. But the bottom line is, by June, if you haven't mastered your site speed, it's going to be a penalty. You are going to hurt if you do not make sure your site is fast. So on the right side, you can see from web.dev, which is a tool we'll talk about in the next slide. This is Anvil's score. And just for reference, when you run your own score for free at web.dev, any performance score above 30 is okay. It sounds failing, but the average across the hundreds of sites we benchmark, 30 is average. So we're slightly above average, and it's still not ideal. Accessibility and best practice, those are exactly average. You want to be in the 70s to 80s there. Accessibility is ADA compliance, which is important. And best practices are some elements we'll talk about in future slides that you want to have, elements of the site that are important. And then your SEO score, of course, we do well on that, but that's a given for us. But anything over 90 is at or above average. So that's the average, and so is the 39 on the other side of performance. So how are we going to speed up the Anvil site? Well, Google says address your preload key requests, remove your unused JavaScript. You're going to see these for every site. The question is, how much time can you save? The other element that's important is structured data. So I ran a tool. It shows we're using 2 different structured data, one for a web page, one for store. Basically, each schema is used for a different type of information point, name, address, phone number, FAQ, article, whatever it is, event. They're all schema.org will tell you what you can use for schema markup, and every page should have some sort of schema, especially if it's deep content, so Google understands context and will help rank that content. CSS, or cascading style sheets, is the most elegant way to render a site. We're a big fan of WordPress sites, on the front end at least. Using Open Graph for Twitter cards, so when people want to share a page, a product page, that should already be built into the providers, that it creates a snapshot of that product, a little description, and then when I share it in social, it's already pre-formatted. That's a nice feature to have in your CMS. Your file optimization, so any images you upload, which is big in your business, as well as videos, which is also common, is to make sure that you've optimized the file name, the title, the description, and then any content around any embedded videos or images, all helps. So if you're creating blog posts and product pages, you should have images throughout, and even videos. Google loves multimedia and will rank you better for that. And then lastly, site security. Make sure your site is secure with HTTPS instead of just HTTP. Google really only wants to index and rank secure sites. So make sure you're doing all these for the fundamentals. As I mentioned, the Core Web Vitals, which is a Google concept. These are hyperlinks. When you get a copy of this deck, you can Google Core Web Vitals yourself, or just go to web.dev. Basically, you need to get these into the green by middle of this year to get an SEO boost. And I believe by the end of the year will be considered an SEO penalty if you're not ostensibly in the green, or at least the yellow. So these first contentful paints, timed interactive, total blocking time, speed index, these are all important metrics that Google looks at. And because Google cares, you have to care, not really a choice. So this slide, we won't talk much about it right now, but you can read this later and then go to web.dev for more information, or Google Core Web Vitals, or click on the links on this slide. So a couple other elements on the code to be aware of. The beyond site speed is that it's HTML text because Google is blind, so it can only read text. So text is a critical component. Make sure you use a lot of it. The average #1 ranking page across any term, head term, 2 to 3 word or phrase terms is over 2,000 words. Most of you don't have product pages over 50 words. So that's a problem and a challenge. That means you need articles and deeper content, FAQs and blog posts to round it out to increase the likelihood of ranking. And it should be HTML core with some embedded images and video for maximum impact. Make sure your site has a robots.txt file that's telling Google or any other engine what to index and what not to index, and ideally point them to an HTML and sitemap, an XML sitemap, which in our case, we have a dozen different sitemaps. And so what you want there is to make sure that Google understands where you keep your key content, how often it should be indexed, and how important it is, right? And then the versus the robot text, which is a index or do not index, okay? So it's a way to block your e-commerce and your administrative access to your site. That's the most common use of your robot text, but make sure you're not blocking the site, that you're only disallowing certain sections of your site. And then always make sure you have a custom 404 so that it's branded. It shouldn't just be a white page saying forbidden 404 because that means it's not configured. You have to just make sure it's set up. It's simple code on the server side to say if this page doesn't exist through whatever reason, old page, killed page, redirected page, never existed page, that it goes to a branded site, says this isn't available, search our site, or here's our navigation. You're not losing the person or the search engine should they be indexing an old page. And a couple other thoughts, navigation, if you have thumbnail or breadcrumb navigation, so going into certain brands or in certain trailer types or into accessories, and then make sure the HTML navigation on the header, if not the footer. If you're redesigning the site and moving pages, 301s are the proper redirect. So this page now should be pointed to this page. Make sure that you've resolved if you have a www on the site, and if I type it in, the www goes away or without it, that it isn't two separate identical pages. You do not want duplicate content. So that's an important factor, is make sure all pages resolve to only one place so you don't have any duplicate content. Now, search engines, typically, they're looking at ways to identify how, what's on the page and then therefore how to rank it. So putting the keywords in the right place can be very strategic. So keywords in the URL, separated by dashes or hyphens, in your title tag to secure the rank. So you can see ours in the middle there, Anvil Media, digital marketing agency specializing in SEO, ellipse, ... So that's about 62 characters is your ideal length for a title tag. We'll talk about that in a second. Your meta description, keywords in there doesn't matter because it doesn't impact the rank, but it does impact the click. So our meta description, award-winning Portland integrated digital marketing agency, provides digital marketing services, blah, 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 blah. What this could do is, this is still a lot of keywords because we're not in the flavor business typically, but we could add in the 150 characters or less, 2 sentences, calls to action, adjectives, adverbs. So award-winning could be an SEO strategy, but it's mainly a marketing strategy. It's a positioning strategy. And so keeping all that in mind, but make sure that when you look at it in the search results, which is the only place it appears other than in your code, that it looks credible. Okay, that's the important part. And then anchor text is when you have links inside your site, what is the text that is linked? So that literally the anchor text. So instead of click here, it should be gooseneck trailer is what's hyperlinked to the gooseneck trailer section. Your body copy, keywords sprinkled throughout, doesn't have to be overkill. And then your headers, which are your H1s through H5s, but H1, H2 is your headline. H2 might be a subhead, and H3 might be a smaller subhead. If you have a lot of content, you need to structure it like an essay. Keywords in the headers and subheads is very important because Google understands and gives it a higher emphasis, provides more clarity. So those are the key elements. Now, your title tag and your meta descriptions need to be unique to each page. So when we work with clients, we optimize every single page uniquely based on that content. So title tag and under 65 characters, meta description and under 150, usually around 120, 130 characters, so that you can fully get in the sizzle to the steak. So the steak is the keywords in your title tag. The sizzle is the sexier copy, It's more descriptive, adjectives, adverbs, whatnot in the meta description to get that click. Once you get the rank, then you need to get the click. Can't have one without the other, or it doesn't matter. So how the last component of the 3 Cs is credibility. So we just went through content and code. Let's talk credibility. So visualized on the left by Moz is this concept of authority pages. So a page that's an authority on cats links to certain pages. Another page that's just dedicated to kittens also is an authority in space, but if they both link to you, because you have a great page on kitty cats or kittens, young cats, then you get the benefit of the context of both. So basically, it's a hub and spoke form of authority based on the two founders of Google being going through their senior dissertation. It's the quality of the professor endorsing your senior dissertation determines how credible your paper is. Same thing with the concept of their Google PageRank is the quality and quantity of links coming into your site from trailer associations like NATDA, trailer publications, other local businesses, if you're a dealer, a bunch of dealers, if you're a manufacturer, vice versa. That's all the important relationships that give Google context. So it's the hardest thing to fake. We can embed keywords all throughout your site. We can optimize the on-site code and credibility factors. At the end of the day, if you only have a few links coming into your site and they're not very credible, you will not outrank the competition other than maybe in local search. So what is that domain authority based on? It's the diversity and quality of the links coming into your site, the volume of those links, and then other signals like social media mentions, domain age, and then the brand search volume, so name recognition. Those are all factors in your domain authority. So Moz has a tool, and basically the site links tool will tell you like who's linking to that domain or that page. So Anvil has a 4546 domain authority. We have 1,700 domains linking into our site, and we have a bunch of inbound links, 8,800 inbound links across 2,400 ranking keywords. But what you really want, though, as you see on the right, is what it looks like a fairly organic looking link strategy. There's far too many 1 to 10 page authority, meaning low value links to our site, almost 1,000 of those. What you want is as many 90 to 100 domain authority as possible. And we have half a dozen or more. And that gives us credibility that our competitors don't have, because most sites in a declining pyramid have almost none in the 90 to 100 domain authority. And we have a bunch because we get a lot of press coverage every year. And those are those thicker sites. So we do really well in the 90 to 100 domain authority, 78 to 80, 70 to 80 domain authority, more than most of our competitors that are much bigger than us. So you want to do the same thing. One way you do that, of course, is look up, reverse engineer by looking up who's linking to your competitors and figure out of those that link to your competitors, which ones should be linking to you as well. And then you just do searches and figure out what sites that are ranking for the terms I want to rank for, like Gooseneck Trailer, are not linking to me and should, whether they link to your competitors or not. So that's the standard link development strategy for the last 20 plus years. But there's another strategy I want to talk about that's less intuitive, and that's utilizing PR or public relations to build links, inbound links. So the past 5 years, I've been pitching stories through Help a Reporter Out, or HARO for short. It's now owned by Cision. More recently, I joined Quoted, which is a community of editors looking for experts on topics. And that one has a paid model, but you can do pitch once or twice a month for free to certain editors. So you have to be selective. But I pitch probably 2 to 10 times a week on average, probably 3 or 4 or 5 pitches a week. And in result, I end up getting 1 to 2 pieces of coverage a week, which leads to over 100 press hits per year the last 4 years. And what that does is boosts our domain authority. It boosts direct traffic. And mainly it builds credibility because I use it for sales. It's my fault. Like, here's our latest coverage. We send it out to our social feeds. We put it on our newsletter. It's a credibility builder. But it's easy to join these sites. Cision sends out their HARO requests 3 times a day. And here's one I just did today at 4:06 p.m. I saw your request on HARO and thought I'd respond, and I answered their questions ABC, links to my bio and more information about me. And if I get a mention, they'll typically link back to Anvil in exchange for the information. That's how all this works. And it has led to other opportunities like potential leads or clients, but mainly it's a marketing play and an SEO play. So from a credibility standpoint, what does the ideal page look like? It has uniquely valuable content, has a really good user experience. It's got the right keywords built in the right places. It's a shareable page and people are sharing it. It's responsive designed. It's accessible for the search engine robots. And it's got all the authorship elements, metadata, schema markup, rich snippets, etc. That's all what an ideal page looks like. Again, this is from Moz, the 800-pound gorilla software provider in our space. It's a good reminder. So let's talk while we're wrapping up here, a couple case studies. I mentioned Haro, help a reporter out, and the importance of pitching stories. Well, this is an example of the importance of schema markup. So you can write a blog post, an article, or an FAQ on a specific subject, mark it up with schema, and then watch it accelerate in terms of rankings and impressions. One of our employees wrote an article, "What is augmented reality marketing?" as a blog post, but it acts like an FAQ. And it answered these 3 questions in its subheads very effectively. What ended up happening is, I didn't know this at the time, but 6 months ago, no, back in March, back in May, I got contacted by an editor out of Spain from The Economist magazine saying, "I'm doing an article on augmented reality and marketing, and I saw your website." I didn't realize the reason was we were #1 in Google for augmented reality marketing because of our blog post. So I ended up being an interviewee as a resource for an article because of our SEO work, not because of my PR pitch work, but because of our SEO work. Now, my PR background helped in making this happen, but the opportunity came through our SEO. So you can see that traffic has declined dramatically. The impressions down to 3,000, but for a couple months in a row, it's 200, 300,000 per month impressions. In fact, in October, we had 1 million impressions in search across our top 10 pages or terms. And right now, over-the-top streaming, or OTT, is a big topic that our blog post crushes on compared to other terms that I'd love to have more visibility on. So looking at your Google Analytics and your Search Console to see where you're ranking, whether you're getting the traffic or not, is really important to informing. An SEO case study that's recent and relevant to you all because this site is small. It's a startup in the app space. It's routing software for FedEx. Basically, anybody that has a FedEx route, those are actually you can buy a route or multiple routes. It's it's not a corporate route system. So these guys had 24 routes that they owned, and they decided to build their own software to create a more efficient way to route plan. You got 20 packages, you got this many stops. What's the fastest way to get them all done? Because when you're not corporate, time is money, more so when you're a franchisee. So straight away built an app that rocks, but they had virtually no visibility in the market in search organically. And we started in August, and by November, after the first 2 months, by October, we took them from not visible in most terms to #1 or in the top 5 for most of their top terms, all because of on-site SEO. So normally I'm sharing this because it's remarkable. I've been doing this, as I said, multiple decades, and I have not seen the ability to move from on-site only SEO, meaning only messing with the content and the code, seeing such a rampant and impactful change in search results in such a short amount of time. Because normally I'd tell you 6 to 9 months is what it would take for a small site to have an impact. And we dramatically increased impressions and new app users from organic search results because we can track all that, right? So that's an important example. And on the big picture side of things, 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, Dormify reached out and said, we need help marketing, both SEO and paid search help. And so we started on our SEO journey with them 3+ years ago. And at the start of last year, they came to us and said, we want to go from #1 in dorm room decor to #1 in room decor. We want to branch out to get beyond the dorm room, especially once COVID hit, it was amplified. Dorm rooms are a thing of the past temporarily, so it's all about your home dorm room, right? So we took them by May. In May, we started implementing, and by Q2, end of Q2, early Q3, they were #1 for the term room decor. That's beating out Amazon and Target and Urban Outfitters and all these big players in that space. because they did SEO to our specification responsively, effectively, and it worked. So it's a case study of when we truly collaborate with a partner, which is our client in this case, it goes really, really well. So let's wrap up with some trends, and then a couple resources, and we'll call it good. So which trends will be the biggest impact on SEO in the next 3 years, according to Spark Toro, which the founder was originally the founder of Moz. So you got to pay attention. He knows this space. So Google is going to go direct more so in the content space, competing with publishers. Machine learning and artificial intelligence will evolve, changing the way the search results are generated in terms of relevance. Zero click or position zero is important as ever, or more so, even if the adoption of smart speakers wasn't as grand as we thought, even with podcasts and so forth, but it is going to become more important this year. The Google search ads are changing the landscape. The lack of tracking when we lose cookies is going to be important. So bottom line, voice search is big, cookie tracking will be important, and AI will slowly evolve how search results are framed up. Amazon is a big deal. Half of all product searches, more than half of all product searches start on Amazon. So if you're selling accessories or small affordable trailers and you're not on Amazon, somebody else is, and they're taking your lunch. But what we're moving to is for our clients, not necessarily in the trailer business, but in other businesses like gym equipment and others, we're moving from Amazon to other platforms like Walmart and Target as well, because they're very competitive in their offerings and they're not as monopolistic in their approach. But you still have to have an Amazon strategy one way or the other. So if I'm a trailer dealer, I might only sell a few select parts and accessories. Like Bullring, one of our clients just sells truck tie downs on Amazon, and we manage that for them. And so that's going really well. But it's accessories do best on Amazon versus trying to sell full-on trailers. Local search is more important than ever. So you've got to augment your visibility by optimizing your site for local SEO to appear, because of the impact of the rich snippets changing up Google My Business. You have to buy in with Google Ads. So that's all really important as the traditional results change. There's a lot more competition in search engine result pages or SERPs, which I mentioned earlier. So you want to be a part of that. And then podcasting, content is king, and a lot of dealers and even manufacturers have trouble creating enough content consistently. So podcasts are a great way to do that. You can have them transcribed and create blog posts and articles out of that content, or record any podcast with video as well, put it up on YouTube. There are a lot of ways to get good content out there, because humans love storytelling. They love video. They love audio. It does show buyer's intent. You could also sponsor podcasts or advertise within them. So look at podcasts this year. And rounding out, virtual events, really important. So it's hard, COVID has created a challenge for the dealers in particular. So are you doing virtual events like walkthroughs of specific products or educational, trailer maintenance, or whatever it is, but look at using virtual events or webinars or live streaming events to augment your marketing this year. A few more stats and links. This is a link to the web dev tool, the Open Site Explorer from Moz, just to get a sense of what those are. And then there are these free, temporarily free, but they market the heck out of you to you. Marketing Grader is helpful. WooRank.com is helpful. And Neil Patel's tools, limited time, free, all worth using at least once to get their data and use that to inform your marketing. We spend a lot of money on subscriptions to a variety of tools that these are lighter versions of, limited access. And search volume's up, paid search is also up, paid social spend is up, e-commerce is up hugely. Our e-commerce clients had a great year this last year, including one of our brands is Coastal Farm and Ranch. They don't sell trailers for the most part, but they're a complementary lifestyle in the Pacific Northwest with 18 stores, and they set records with their e-commerce sales because of COVID. It's unfortunate side effect for those that have been hurt by COVID, but it definitely helped grow their business quickly. More stats on voice search, reminder about lifetime customer value and how SEO is one of the best sources of high quality customers by channel. Bunch of articles on SEO, some cheat sheets, white papers, ebooks, and guides and webinars for your information. You can email me with questions, ken@anvilmedia.com. And if you're interested, I'm happy to offer a free audit, 5 to 15-minute audit. If you email me and request an audit, I'm happy to get some time on the calendar. We'll walk you through a live audit to give you pointers, 5 to 10 things you can do to improve your visibility and revenue through your website this year or through social as well. So I look forward to hearing from you. I want to thank you for your time. I hope to catch you at NATDA in the future. Take care and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks.